So there I was, standing in my own kitchen on a random Tuesday morning, staring at my phone like it had just slapped me across the face. My sister Rachel had the absolute nerve to send me an invitation to her 5th wedding anniversary party with my ex-husband David, along with a little note that said, and I quote, "We're registered at Tiffany's. I've had my eye on the Elsa Peretti bone cuff. It's $8,500. Consider it making up for all the birthdays you missed." $8,500. From the woman who destroyed my marriage while I was 7 months pregnant. I wanted to throw my phone into the garbage disposal. But my husband Marcus, who was chopping onions for his signature bolognese, looked over my shoulder, read the message, and said something that changed everything. "Babe, I think I know her." That sentence, those 6 words set off a chain of events that Rachel never saw coming. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning. I grew up in a suburb outside of Austin, Texas. My parents were good people, hardworking. The kind who believed that family comes first, no matter what. My dad was a plumber, and my mom worked reception at a dentist's office. We weren't rich, but we had enough. My older sister Rachel was 4 years ahead of me, and growing up, she was everything I wasn't. She was loud, confident, always the center of attention. I was the quiet one, the one who got good grades and stayed out of trouble. Teachers loved me. Rachel resented that. Even as kids, Rachel had this habit of taking things that were mine. My Halloween candy. My birthday presents. My friends. She'd invite my best friend over and then lock me out of her room. When I complained to my mom, she'd say, "She's your sister, Emily. She doesn't mean any harm." But she did. She always did. I met David Chen my junior year of college. He was a second-year law student, sharp, ambitious, the kind of guy who wore pressed shirts to study sessions. We met at a campus coffee shop when he accidentally grabbed my order of vanilla oat milk latte instead of his black Americano. He took one sip, made the most disgusted face I'd ever seen, and I couldn't stop laughing. We talked for 3 hours that day. Within 6 months, we were inseparable. David was driven. He talked about making partner at a firm before 40, about building something. I admired that hunger in him. I was finishing my teaching degree, planning to work with elementary kids. And David would say things like, "You're going to be the kind of teacher kids remember forever." He made me feel seen in a way nobody ever had. We got married when I was 25. Small ceremony, backyard reception at his parents' house in Houston. It was perfect. Rachel was my maid of honor, and she spent the entire reception flirting with David's groomsmen and complaining that the catering was cheap. Classic Rachel. But I didn't care. I was happy. The first 2 years of marriage were good. David landed a position at a mid-size firm downtown, and I got hired at Westlake Elementary, teaching 3rd grade. We bought a small house near the school. Life felt like it was falling into place, piece by piece, exactly how I'd always imagined. Then I got pregnant. I was thrilled. David was thrilled. We called everyone we knew. My mom cried. His parents sent over a crib that same week. For about 5 months, everything was beautiful. I was glowing, David was attentive, and we spent weekends painting the nursery a soft yellow because we wanted to be surprised by the gender. Then the complications started. Around month 6, I developed severe preeclampsia. My blood pressure spiked dangerously high, and my doctor put me on strict bed rest. No work. No driving. No stress. I had to take medical leave from the school, which meant our income dropped by nearly half. David said it was fine, that his salary could cover us, but I noticed the tension in his jaw when the bills came. I was stuck at home, swollen, exhausted, terrified that something would go wrong with the baby. Some days I could barely get off the couch. The house was a mess because I physically couldn't clean it. I ordered takeout because standing at the stove made me dizzy. I gained weight, of course I did. I was pregnant and bedridden. One evening David came home late, looked around the living room at the takeout containers and the laundry pile, and said, "Emily, this place is disgusting. You've been home all day. What do you even do?" I told him about the blood pressure, the dizziness, how the doctor said I needed to stay off my feet. He rolled his eyes. Actually rolled his eyes at his pregnant wife with a medical condition. "My mom worked full-time through all 3 of her pregnancies," he said. She never used it as an excuse to just let everything fall apart. That stung. But I told myself it was stress. He was carrying the financial burden alone. He was tired. He didn't mean it. Then Rachel started coming around. She'd show up unannounced, always when David happened to be home. She'd bring takeout but only enough for two. She'd sit on the couch with David watching TV while I lay in the bedroom because my back was killing me. I heard them laughing through the wall. One night I walked out to get water and found Rachel sitting way too close to him, her hand on his arm, whispering something that made him smile in a way he hadn't smiled at me in weeks. "What's going on?" I asked. Rachel didn't even flinch. "Relax, Em. We're just talking. You should be resting anyway, right? Doctor's orders." She said it with this sweet, caring voice, but her eyes were ice cold. I know that look. I'd seen it my whole life. I told myself I was being paranoid. Hormones. Stress. Pregnancy brain. I was not being paranoid. At 7 months pregnant, I woke up one Saturday morning to find David packing a bag. He wouldn't look at me. I asked him what was happening, and he sat on the edge of the bed and said, "I can't do this anymore, Emily. I've been seeing someone. I want a divorce." The room tilted. I gripped the headboard to keep from falling. "Who?" I asked. Even though some part of me already knew. "Rachel." He said it like he was ordering coffee. Like it was nothing. Like those 2 syllables didn't just detonate my entire world. I called Rachel immediately, my hands shaking so bad I could barely hold the phone. She picked up on the first ring. "Yeah, it's true," she said. "Look, I didn't plan this, but David and I have a real connection. You two have been falling apart for months. Honestly, Em? I'm doing you a favor. You can barely take care of yourself right now, let alone a husband. He needs someone who can actually be there for him." I hung up. I sat on the bathroom floor for 2 hours. Then I called my mom. My mom was devastated but tried to play peacemaker. "Maybe it's a misunderstanding. Rachel wouldn't do that." "Yes, Mom. She absolutely would." David filed for divorce within a month. I was 8 months pregnant, sitting across from my lawyer, trying to focus on custody agreements while my baby kicked against my ribs. I fought hard. I demanded full custody, child support, everything I was entitled to. My lawyer was a woman named Teresa Molina, a fierce family attorney my coworker recommended, and she made sure David didn't get away clean. The court ordered him to pay $2,200 a month in child support plus a portion of my medical bills. He wasn't happy about it, but the judge didn't care. Neither did I. I gave birth to my daughter Lily 8 weeks later. She was 6 pounds, 2 ounces, with a full head of dark hair and the tiniest fingers I'd ever seen. David didn't show up at the hospital. Rachel posted a photo of them at a rooftop bar in Dallas that same weekend. My mom was there for the delivery, though. She held my hand and told me I was the strongest person she knew. I didn't feel strong. But looking at Lily's face, I knew I had to be. The first year was brutal. I was a single mom on a teacher's salary, living in a 1-bedroom apartment because I couldn't afford the house anymore. David's child support payments were always late, and I had to send Teresa after him twice before he started paying on time. I went back to teaching when Lily was 3 months old because I had no choice. My coworker watched Lily during school hours as a favor. I survived on coffee and stubbornness. But slowly, things got better. When Lily was about a year old, I started treating myself to dinner once a week at a little Italian place near my apartment called Rosario's. It wasn't fancy, just a neighborhood spot with checkered tablecloths and the best pasta in Austin. I always sat at the same corner table with Lily in her high chair, and the chef, this big, warm guy with a booming laugh, would come out every single time to check on us. His name was Marcus Taylor. Marcus was 38, divorced, no kids. He'd trained in New York, worked at some high-end restaurants, and then came back to Austin to open his own place. He was the kind of person who remembered your order, who noticed when you looked tired and brought out an extra dessert on the house. He started leaving little notes with our takeout orders. Silly stuff. Lily's favorite customer status, confirmed. Smile, you survived another Monday. One night, Lily threw her entire bowl of spaghetti on the floor, sauce everywhere, and I just started crying. Not because of the spaghetti, but because of everything. The loneliness, the exhaustion, the weight of doing it all alone. Marcus came over with a towel, cleaned up the mess, sat down across from me, and said, "Hey, you're doing an incredible job. I see you in here every week, and that little girl is lucky to have you." I ugly cried into a napkin in the middle of his restaurant. It was not my finest moment. We started dating a few months later. Marcus was patient, kind, and he adored Lily. He never rushed me. He never pressured me. When I told him about David and Rachel, he just shook his head and said, "Their loss." After a year together, he proposed. Nothing flashy, he cooked me dinner at the restaurant after hours. Just the two of us, with Lily asleep in her car seat, and he got down on one knee next to the table where we'd first really talked. "Emily, I'm not the smoothest guy. And I can't promise you a perfect life. But I can promise you, I'll show up. Every single day. For you and for Lily." I said yes before he even finished the sentence. We got married at the courthouse. Small, simple, happy. My mom was there. Marcus's parents flew in from Atlanta. It was everything. For the next 3 years, life was genuinely good. Marcus's restaurant took off, he got featured in Texas Monthly, then Food and Wine, and Rosario's became one of the hardest reservations in Austin. I went back to teaching full-time, and Lily started pre-K. We moved into a bigger house with a yard, and Marcus built Lily a little garden where she grew tomatoes and strawberries. It was the kind of life I'd stopped believing was possible. And then that text from Rachel showed up. The anniversary party invitation. The $8,500 bracelet demand. The audacity. I hadn't spoken to Rachel in over 4 years. She and David got married about 6 months after our divorce was finalized. I know because my mom mentioned it once, apologetically, like she was confessing a sin. I told her I didn't want to hear about it, and she never brought it up again. So, when Marcus said, "I think I know her," I froze. "What do you mean?" He put down the knife, wiped his hands on his apron, and pulled out his phone. "Rachel Chen, right? Used to be Rachel Carter?" I nodded. He scrolled through something and turned the screen to me. It was Rosario's reservation system. Rachel Chen. Table for 2. 14 visits over the past 2 years. She comes in with friends. Sometimes with a man I assume is her husband, Marcus said. But here's the thing, babe. She's the one. The one what? About 2 years ago, we had an incident at the restaurant. A customer was being extremely loud, bragging about some wild personal stuff, making other diners uncomfortable. My staff complained. 3 different servers flagged it. I pulled the security footage to document it in case she caused more problems. He paused. She was telling the whole restaurant how she stole her sister's husband by faking a cancer scare. My blood went cold. What? She told her friend that she went to David crying, saying she'd been diagnosed with something serious. I think it was lymphoma and that she needed someone to lean on. She said she used the sympathy to get close to him, while you were on bed rest. She was laughing about it. She said, and I remember this from the footage, something like she played the sick card, and he fell for it like an idiot. I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. All those years, I thought David just fell out of love with me. I thought Rachel was just being Rachel's selfish, opportunistic. But she had manufactured the entire thing. She'd weaponized a fake illness to manipulate my husband while I was too sick to fight back. "Do you still have the footage?" I asked. Marcus nodded slowly. "I keep security backups for 3 years. It's all on the cloud." I sat down at the kitchen table and stared at the anniversary invitation on my phone. Something inside me shifted. For years, I'd been the quiet one. The one who took the hit and moved on. The one who let Rachel be Rachel because that's what my family expected. Not anymore. "Marcus," I said. "I think we should go to that anniversary party." He raised an eyebrow. "You sure? She wants a gift? Let's give her one she'll never forget." Over the next 2 weeks, Marcus and I planned everything carefully. He pulled the security footage from the cloud backup and had it transferred to a clean USB drive. We watched it together one night after Lily went to bed. There was Rachel, sitting at table 12 with a woman I didn't recognize, 3 glasses of wine deep, telling the whole story. How she'd Googled lymphoma symptoms so she could fake it convincingly. How she showed up at David's office in tears, saying she might only have a year to live. How David started checking on her behind my back, and she turned those check-ins into something more. She was laughing the entire time. Her exact words at one point were, "The best part is Emily still thinks he just got bored of her. She has no idea." I wanted to be sick. But I also felt something else. Clarity. Power. For the first time in years, I had the truth, and Rachel didn't know it. The anniversary party was at a rented event space downtown, one of those trendy loft venues with exposed brick and string lights. Rachel had posted about it on social media for weeks. 5 years of love, celebrating with our closest family and friends. I noticed she didn't mention that the groom's first wife and child existed. Typical. Marcus and I showed up looking good. I wore a red dress that I'd bought specifically for this occasion. Marcus wore a navy blazer. We walked in, and I could feel Rachel's eyes on us immediately. She was standing near the entrance in a white dress because of course she wore white to her own anniversary party with David beside her in a suit that I'm pretty sure I'd helped him pick out years ago. "Emily." Rachel rushed over, arms wide, like we were long-lost best friends. "Oh my God, you actually came. And this must be your new husband." She looked Marcus up and down. "You look familiar." "Marcus Taylor," he said, extending his hand. "I own Rosario's downtown." Rachel's smile flickered for just a second. "Oh, I love that place. The carbonara is amazing." "Thank you. I thought you looked familiar too. You've been in quite a few times." They shook hands. David stood behind Rachel, avoiding my eyes. "Hi, David," I said, keeping my voice steady. "It's been a while." "Emily. You look good." He shifted uncomfortably. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. There were about 60 people there. David's law firm colleagues. Rachel's friends. Some family. I spotted my mom in the corner looking deeply uncomfortable, and I gave her a small wave. She looked relieved to see me. Rachel had set up a gift table near the front of the room, and she'd been not so subtly directing people toward it all evening. She clinked a champagne glass about an hour in to give a speech. "David and I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. 5 years ago, we took a chance on love, and it was the best decision we ever made." She beamed at the crowd. "Marriage isn't always easy, but when you find your person, you just know." I caught my mom looking at the floor. After the speech, Rachel made her way over to us again. "So, did you bring a gift?" She wasn't even subtle about it. She glanced at my hands, then at the gift table, then back at me. "Actually, yes," Marcus said. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small envelope. "Simple, white, nothing fancy. I wanted to give this to you personally." Rachel's eyes lit up. She snatched the envelope like a kid on Christmas morning. "Oh, how sweet. You didn't have to. But I'm glad you did." She laughed at her own joke. She opened it right there in front of us. Inside was a single piece of paper, a printed screenshot of the security footage, time-stamped, showing Rachel at table 12 at Rosario's. Below the screenshot, Marcus had written, "Full video available. Your move." The color drained from Rachel's face. She looked up at Marcus, then at me, then back at the paper. "What is this?" Marcus kept his voice calm, conversational, like he was describing the daily special. "About 2 years ago, you were at my restaurant telling your friend a very interesting story. About how you faked a cancer diagnosis to steal your sister's husband. My security cameras caught the whole thing. Audio and video." The people standing nearest to us went quiet. Rachel's hand was shaking. "You're lying," she whispered. That's ridiculous. I never said anything like that." "You described Googling lymphoma symptoms," Marcus continued, still calm. "You talked about showing up at David's office, crying. You said, and this is pretty close to a direct quote, that Emily still has no idea." David, who had been talking to a colleague nearby, turned around. "What's going on? What is he talking about?" "Nothing," Rachel said, too quickly, too loudly. "He's making things up. I have the footage on a USB drive in my car," Marcus said. "Happy to play it for anyone who's interested. Your husband. Your guests. Your mother-in-law." He nodded toward David's mom, who was watching from across the room with a very concerned expression. Rachel turned to me. For the first time in my life, I saw real fear in her eyes. Emily. Please. You can't do this. I'm your sister. Something broke loose inside me. Years of swallowed anger, of being told to keep the peace, of watching her take and take and take while I smiled and said nothing. I looked her dead in the eye and said, "You stopped being my sister the day you walked into my husband's office with fake tears and a made-up diagnosis while I was in bed trying not to lose my baby." The room had gone very quiet. David stepped forward. "Rachel, is this true? Did you fake being sick?" "David, listen to me. Did you fake it? Yes or no?" Rachel opened her mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. Then she did something I didn't expect. She tried to spin it. "Okay. Maybe I exaggerated a little. But I was going through a hard time emotionally. And I needed support. And you were there for me. And things just happened naturally. It's not like I planned the whole. You just said you Googled symptoms." Someone shouted from the crowd. I think it was one of David's coworkers. David's face had gone from confused to furious to something worse, humiliated. This was a room full of his colleagues, his clients, people who respected him as a serious attorney. And they were all learning that his entire marriage was built on a con job. "I want to see the footage," David said quietly. Marcus went to the car and came back with his laptop. He set it up on a table near the bar. The video was clear. Rosario's has excellent cameras because Marcus had invested in a good system after a break-in attempt years ago. There was Rachel, wine glass in hand, laughing, describing the whole scheme in vivid detail. How she'd printed out fake medical papers from a template she found online. How she'd told David she needed someone to drive her to chemotherapy appointments that didn't exist. How she'd timed everything perfectly to coincide with my bed rest so that I wouldn't notice David pulling away. The room was silent except for Rachel's voice on the recording. When it finished, David closed the laptop, stood up, and walked out of the venue without saying a word to anyone. Rachel tried to follow him. "David, wait. That was years ago. We have a life together now, it doesn't matter how it started." He didn't stop. He didn't turn around. The party fell apart after that. Guests left in small groups, whispering. David's mother approached me on her way out and said, "Emily, I am so sorry. I had no idea." She looked like she was about to cry. I told her it wasn't her fault. Because it wasn't. Rachel had fooled everyone. My mom found me outside. She was crying. "I should have believed you," she said. "All those years, I should have listened." "You're listening now, Mom. That's what matters." The aftermath unfolded faster than I expected. David filed for divorce within 3 weeks. His firm handled the paperwork, and apparently it was not friendly. Turned out Rachel had been spending lavishly during their marriage: designer clothes, luxury vacations, spa memberships, all on David's credit cards, to the tune of nearly $95,000 in debt that David didn't fully realize because Rachel handled the household finances. During the divorce proceedings, David's lawyer also discovered that Rachel had filed 2 insurance claims during their marriage for follow-up treatments related to her fake diagnosis. That's insurance fraud, and David, being a lawyer, reported it. Last I heard, Rachel was facing a civil suit from the insurance company, and potential criminal charges. Rachel called me 3 weeks after the party. I almost didn't pick up, but curiosity got the best of me. "This is your fault," she hissed. "If your stupid husband hadn't kept those cameras, I'd still be fine. You owe me. You've always been jealous of me, and now you've ruined my life." I was quiet for a moment. Then I said, "Rachel, you ruined your own life. You lied about having cancer. You stole my husband while I was in a high-risk pregnancy. You committed insurance fraud. None of that is my fault, and none of that is Marcus's fault. Those are your choices, and you're finally facing consequences for them. I wish you well, but I'm done. Don't contact me again." I hung up and blocked her number. David reached out a few months later through a mutual friend. He wanted to apologize. He said he'd been in therapy and was trying to understand how he'd been manipulated. He also asked if he could be more involved in Lily's life. I thought about it for a long time. Lily deserved to know her biological father, and David, for all his faults, had been paying child support consistently since Teresa put the fear of God in him. So we worked out a new custody arrangement every other weekend and Wednesday evenings. It's not perfect, but Lily seems happy, and David has been making a genuine effort. But I want to be clear. I told David there is zero chance of us getting back together. He nodded like he expected that answer. I know, he said. I don't deserve another chance with you. I just want to be a good father. Then be one, I said. And so far, he's trying. As for Rachel, the last I heard she moved to a small apartment in San Marcos. The insurance lawsuit is still ongoing. She lost most of her social circle because the story spread fast. When you fake cancer in a room full of lawyers, word gets around. My mom tried to get us to reconcile once, but I shut that down immediately. Mom, I love you, but I will never have a relationship with Rachel again. She is not safe for me, or for Lily. Please respect that. My mom hasn't brought it up since. Marcus and I celebrated our 3rd wedding anniversary last month. He cooked me dinner at the restaurant after hours, at the same table where he proposed, with Lily sitting between us this time, covered in marinara sauce and giggling. She's 5 now, loud and confident and fearless. Honestly, she reminds me of Rachel sometimes, and that scares me a little, but then she'll do something so kind, so thoughtful, like sharing her strawberries with the neighbor's kid or drawing me a picture that says best mom, and I know she's her own person. She's the best thing that's ever happened to me. I used to wonder what my life would look like if Rachel hadn't done what she did. But honestly, I don't wonder anymore. If Rachel hadn't been Rachel, I never would have ended up at Rosario's on a Tuesday night with a baby in a high chair and tears in my eyes. I never would have met the man who cleans up spaghetti off the floor and calls it love. I never would have learned that I'm stronger than I thought, braver than I believed, and worth more than anyone who makes me feel small. So, Rachel, if you're somehow listening to this, you wanted to give me a favor? You were right. You did. Just not the way you planned. And Marcus, if you're listening, yes, I'm ready. Let's head out. Lily's been asking about the strawberry gelato all day, and I promised her we'd go before it closes. Some promises, unlike Rachel's, are actually worth keeping.